The alien queen came home early and found the human single dad holding her crying daughter. For most people aboard the station, life had settled into a predictable rhythm. Crew members moved with mechanical precision, systems hummed in quiet harmony, and the hum of engines was a lullaby for those accustomed to long journeys. But for Commander Jace Arlen, the station had always been a place of chaos disguised as routine. He had a daughter to raise, a daughter who was unlike any other child he had ever known. Lyra was small, even for her species. The Zelari, a delicate, luminous alien race with long, graceful limbs and translucent skin that shimmered faintly in different colors, were known for their elegance and precise ways. Lyra, however, had adopted human habits, often copying Jace's gestures or making little faces to make him laugh. At 7 years old, she was a mixture of alien poise and human curiosity, a combination that both fascinated and frustrated the people around her. Jace looked down at her as she sat cross-legged on the floor of their shared quarters, fiddling with a small mechanical toy he had managed to repair earlier. "Almost done, Lyra?" he asked, his voice gentle. Her large, reflective eyes turned toward him, and a tiny smile appeared. "Almost," she said, her voice musical but accented with the soft cadence of the Zelari language. She struggled with some of the sounds, but she was improving. Jace chuckled, ruffling her hair. "I know you can finish it. You just need to focus." He was used to teaching her patience, which seemed to be a human concept completely foreign to the Zelari. But in Lyra, it had started to take root, a testament to the influence of her father. Suddenly, the hum of the station changed. A soft, almost imperceptible alarm began to echo through the corridors, growing louder with each passing second. Jace froze. His heart rate quickened. Alarms on Elysium 1 were never a casual occurrence, and this one carried a weight he hadn't expected. "Dad?" Lyra asked, her small hands clutching the toy as her eyes widened. He stood quickly, pulling her close. "It's okay, Lyra. Stay with me," he said, moving toward the observation deck where the main screens displayed the station's exterior. The crew around him were already moving, their faces tense with anticipation. The screen flickered and then focused on the docking bay, where a ship unlike any other had just arrived. Its hull was sleek and shimmering, glowing faintly as if made from liquid crystal. It moved with a grace that was almost living. Jace's stomach dropped. He knew immediately who it was. Lyra stiffened in his arms, her small fingers digging into his jacket. Who is that?" she whispered. Jace swallowed hard. That is your mother," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Zelari Queen." The realization struck him in a way that made his chest tighten. The Queen, Majesta Zelara, had returned earlier than anyone expected. Her missions across the galaxy were supposed to take months, maybe even a year. But here she was, gliding effortlessly into the docking bay, her ship settling with a quiet authority that made every human and alien present fall silent. Lyra's eyes welled with tears, though she didn't cry yet. She had heard stories of her mother, of her power and strictness. Even as a child, she could sense the expectations placed upon her. And now, Jace knew, she would be forced to confront them. Jace took a deep breath, holding Lyra tightly. He had faced difficult situations before: command crises, diplomatic negotiations, technical disasters, but nothing compared to this. Nothing had prepared him for standing here, on the edge of an interstellar meeting that would determine the future of his daughter's life. The air in the station was thick with tension as the Queen's ship docked, the airlocks opening with a hiss that sounded like a quiet storm. Majesta Zelara stepped out, her form tall and radiant, her eyes like molten silver scanning the docking bay. Her presence was overwhelming, and the silence of the crew spoke volumes of their respect and fear. Jace met her gaze as he stepped forward, Lyra still in his arms. The Queen's eyes locked onto the child immediately, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Lyra whimpered softly, clutching Jace's neck, her tears threatening to spill. "You have returned early," Jace said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. Majesta's expression was unreadable. Her sharp, elegant features gave nothing away, though the air around her seemed to vibrate with tension. "Commander Arlen," she said, her voice a melodic blend of authority and curiosity, "and you have my daughter." "Yes," Jace replied. "She's safe. She's well. She's been waiting for you." He hesitated, aware that every word mattered. "She's been learning, playing, living." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, and Jace felt a shiver run down his spine. Zelari protocol dictated that children must return to their parents immediately, and for Lyra, being with a human, even a responsible one, was considered a breach of tradition. Lyra's small voice cut through the tension. "Mother," she said, her words trembling. She buried her face in Jace's shoulder. Jace bent down slightly to comfort her, whispering, "It's okay, Lyra. Everything will be okay." But inside he was unsure. How could he protect her now? How could he explain the warmth, the laughter, and the patience they had shared when her mother might see it as improper? Majesta stepped closer, her gaze fixed on Lyra. For a moment the child stiffened, unsure whether to run or to stay. But Jace held her firmly, projecting calm and reassurance. "You have raised her differently than expected," the Queen said finally, her voice soft but commanding. "And yet, I see she is content. She has learned things no Zelari child would normally know at this age." Jace felt a flicker of hope. "I've tried to teach her the things humans value: empathy, curiosity, patience. She's not only my daughter, she's yours too." Majesta's eyes softened slightly, though the tension in her posture remained. She knelt, bringing herself closer to Lyra's level. "And how do you feel, my child?" she asked, her tone gentle but probing. Lyra blinked up at her mother, tears still in her eyes. I like both of you," she said quietly. "I like learning from Daddy, and I want to know you too, Mommy." The Queen studied her daughter carefully, as if trying to understand the human influence that had shaped her. Jace could see a flicker of admiration in her eyes. She had returned expecting compliance and fear, and instead she found laughter, tears, and a bond she had not anticipated. For Jace, the moment was a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had bought time, but he knew the real challenge was only beginning. The Queen had returned early, and with her came not only authority but expectation. How would she respond to a human who had dared to nurture her child differently? Lyra's small hands reached out, gripping both her parents' hands. Jace felt the weight of responsibility and pride. She was bridging two worlds, human and Zelari, and he had guided her to this point. Majesta studied the child, then Jace, then the room around her. The silence stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the station and the soft, rhythmic breathing of her daughter. Finally she spoke, her voice calm but resolute. "Commander Arlen, you have done well, perhaps differently than expected, but well, we shall speak further." Jace nodded, careful to maintain composure. "Of course, Your Majesty." Lyra clung to him, her small body trembling. Jace whispered, "See, she's not angry, she just wants to understand." And in that moment the first seeds of trust were planted. Outside, the stars continued their silent journey across the void, unaware of the small miracle unfolding aboard Elysium 1. A human single dad holding his alien daughter, standing face to face with her mother, the Queen, as the first steps toward understanding and unity began. The station remained tense, but a new chapter had begun. Jace knew the coming days would test him in ways he could not yet imagine, but as long as he held Lyra close, he was ready to face whatever challenges awaited. For now, the universe had witnessed something rare and fragile, a bond that transcended species, tradition, and expectation, held together by nothing more than love and courage. The docking bay of Elysium 1 was still quiet after the tense meeting between Jace, Lyra, and the Zelari Queen. The crew slowly returned to their stations, moving with a mix of relief and cautious curiosity. Life on the station tried to resume its normal rhythm, but for Jace and Lyra, nothing would feel normal again. The Queen's presence had changed everything. Jace carried Lyra back to their quarters, her small hand gripping his tightly. Her eyes, still wet from crying, darted nervously toward the corridor where the Queen had disappeared. "Dad, will she be angry with me?" Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Jace knelt to meet her gaze, brushing a lock of hair from her glowing forehead. "Lyra, your mother is trying to understand. That's all we can ask for right now. You've done nothing wrong." He smiled, though it was faint, careful not to hide the worry he felt. The Queen's approval was not something easily won, and he knew that every day forward would be a test. Lyra leaned into him, her small body trembling. "I like living here with you," she said softly. "I don't want to leave." "You don't have to," Jace reassured her. "Not yet. And we'll make sure she sees how wonderful you are, in your own way." They settled into the small quarters, which were a mixture of human functionality and alien beauty. Jace had done his best to make the place comfortable for Lyra, incorporating glowing panels, soft cushions, and small windows that offered views of the stars. It was a space where she could play, learn, and feel safe, and he hoped it would show the Queen that humans could nurture in ways Zelari tradition did not anticipate. For a while, Lyra played quietly with her toys, still glancing nervously toward the door. Jace sat nearby, watching her and thinking about the coming days. He knew the Queen would observe her daughter closely, looking for signs of weakness, obedience, or improper behavior. He had to prepare both Lyra and himself for what was coming. The station's comms crackled, and a soft chime announced a message from the Queen herself. Jace stood and pressed the console. Majesta's image appeared, framed by the elegant architecture of her ship. She looked regal, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the room, her expression composed but serious. "Commander Arlen," she began, her voice calm but firm, "I wish to speak further about Lyra's upbringing. Your methods are unconventional." "Yes, Your Majesty," Jace said, standing straight. "I understand. I only wish for Lyra to learn, grow, and feel safe while she does." "I have observed her," the Queen said. "She shows emotional depth uncommon for her age and for her species. Yet she also exhibits human habits that may conflict with our ways. I require explanation." Jace nodded, choosing his words carefully. "She is young, Your Majesty. I want her to learn empathy, curiosity, patience, things humans value. She is learning to be strong and thoughtful in her own way, not just by rules or rituals." The Queen's gaze softened slightly. "Empathy, patience, these are qualities we respect but rarely cultivate in such direct ways. Humans, they teach by feeling, by example, rather than by ceremony." "That's right," Jace said. "I teach her by doing things with her, showing her how to handle challenges and care for others. She learns through experience." Majesta studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "This is remarkable and dangerous. She may face criticism from her own people for straying from our traditions." Jace swallowed hard. "I understand, Your Majesty. But she is my daughter too, and I want her to grow without fear. I want her to be proud of who she is." The Queen remained silent for a moment, as if weighing his words. Then she spoke again. "I wish to observe her. I wish to see how she behaves when confronted with challenges, with her peers, and with authority. This will determine the next steps." Jace nodded. "Of course, whatever you need." After the message ended, he turned to Lyra, who was watching him with wide, curious eyes. "Your mother wants to see you," he said gently, "but she's not angry, she just wants to understand." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Will I do something wrong?" "You won't," Jace said firmly. "Just be yourself, that's the most important thing." The next day, Majesta arrived at Elysium 1 for a personal observation session. The crew cleared a section of the station, creating a space where Lyra could interact freely. Other children, human and Zelari, had been invited to play and learn, under careful supervision. Jace guided Lyra to the center of the room, holding her hand. At first, She stayed close to him, glancing nervously at her mother, who observed silently from a raised platform. The queen's presence was imposing, yet there was curiosity in her stance, a desire to see the child's true nature rather than simply judge her by tradition. The children began simple games, designed to test problem-solving, cooperation, and creativity. Lyra hesitated at first, unsure of how to act with the others. Jace knelt beside her. "Try it your way, Lyra," he whispered. "Use what you know, be kind, be clever, and have fun." Slowly, Lyra began to participate. She helped a younger human child reach a high shelf, guided a Zelari child through a puzzle, and even suggested a small trick that made the group laugh. Her combination of human initiative and Zelari intelligence was impressive. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in concentration. She observed, fascinated, as her daughter demonstrated qualities that neither tradition nor expectation could fully predict. During a break, Majesta approached Jace. "She is extraordinary," she said softly. "Humans teach in ways that surprise me. I see patience, creativity, and understanding in her. She has learned much from you." Jace felt a flicker of relief. "She has, Your Majesty, and she has much more to learn from both of us." Majesta nodded, considering his words. "Perhaps there is merit in your methods, yet I remain cautious. The Zelari value order and precision. Chaos can be dangerous." "Chaos can also create solutions," Jace replied with a small smile. "Sometimes the unexpected teaches more than the expected ever could." The queen's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "You may be right, Commander. Humans, you are unpredictable, but sometimes that unpredictability is a strength." Lyra, unaware of the weight of the conversation, tugged at Jace's hand. "Daddy, watch this," she said, showing him a clever trick she had taught herself during the game. He laughed, marveling at her ingenuity. Even Majesta allowed herself a faint smile. Later, Jace and Lyra returned to their quarters. Lyra collapsed on the bed, exhausted but happy. "Do you think she likes me?" she asked softly. Jace sat beside her, brushing her hair back. "I think she's starting to understand you, and that's a very good start." As night fell over Elysium 1, the stars outside sparkled like diamonds scattered across velvet. Jace sat by the window, thinking about the Queen's visit. He knew the coming days would bring more observation, more challenges, and more tests. But he also knew that the bond he shared with Lyra, built on patience, understanding, and love, was something no protocol or tradition could break. The next morning, the station's alarms did not blare, and the crew moved quietly through their routines. Majesta had returned to her ship, but she left a subtle presence behind, a feeling of careful observation and tentative approval. Jace used the time to teach Lyra new skills, blending human creativity with Zelari logic. Together they solved puzzles, repaired small station equipment, and even cooked a simple meal, a mix of human and Zelari flavors. Lyra laughed when she accidentally spilled a bit of the mixture. "Oops," she exclaimed. Jace chuckled, scooping her up. "It's okay. That's part of learning." Through these small moments, Majesta's lessons lingered in the background. She would be watching, silently evaluating, but Jace felt no fear. Instead, he felt hope. Humans had a unique way of nurturing, of teaching through empathy and experience. And he would prove, one day at a time, that this way could thrive, even in the rigid structure of Zelari tradition. Days passed, and Majesta returned intermittently to observe Lyra. Each visit revealed more of her daughter's abilities, more of her human-inspired creativity, and more of the unusual harmony that existed between the single father and his daughter. The Queen began to understand that Lyra's strength came not from obedience alone, but from love, trust, and guidance, the very qualities humans embodied. Jace watched his daughter grow more confident with each visit. She began approaching her mother without fear, offering ideas, showing care for others, and even correcting minor mistakes in a playful, gentle way. Majesta, though reserved, allowed herself to be impressed. She realized that humans had taught Lyra something that no rigid protocol ever could: the joy of learning, the power of empathy, and the courage to think independently. In quiet moments, Jace reflected on the journey so far. The challenge of raising an alien child, of bridging two cultures, had seemed impossible. Yet now, with Lyra thriving and the Queen observing with tentative admiration, he felt the truth of what humans could offer the universe: compassion, creativity, and courage. And so, the small quarters on Elysium 1 became a place of learning, laughter, and connection. Jace and Lyra moved forward, day by day, moment by moment, proving that even in the vastness of space, human heart and spirit could shine brighter than the stars themselves. The Queen's early return had brought tension, but it had also sparked something far greater: a chance for understanding, a bridge between worlds, and a lesson that humanity, in its simplest form, was something extraordinary. The calm that had settled over Elysium one after Majesta, Zelara's observation visit, was suddenly broken by the station's alert systems. A red light flashed across the corridors, accompanied by a steady, urgent alarm that echoed through every deck. Jace felt a chill run down his spine as he scooped Lyra into his arms. "Dad, what is it?" she asked, her small voice trembling slightly. Jace tried to keep his own fear hidden. "Something is happening, Lyra. We need to stay calm and follow the rules." But even as he said it, his mind raced. Alerts were not uncommon, but the tone and urgency of this one suggested something serious, something beyond the usual mechanical failure or routine test. He hurried to the main control deck, Lyra clinging to him tightly. Around him, the crew was already at their stations, faces pale but focused. Red warning lights cast eerie shadows across the metal walls. Jace pressed a hand to the nearest console, scanning the incoming data. "Commander," a young officer said, her voice tense, "asteroid fragments have entered the station's projected path. If we don't adjust trajectory and activate the shields, we could be hit." Jace's jaw tightened. Asteroid storms were rare in this sector, but they were deadly. Even with the station's advanced shielding, multiple high-speed fragments could breach the hull if not handled carefully. He glanced down at Lyra, who was wide-eyed but surprisingly calm. "It's okay, Lyra," he whispered, holding her close. "We're going to be fine. I just need you to sit with me here while we fix everything." Lyra nodded, trusting him completely. Her faith in her father's abilities gave him a surge of determination. Humans had a way of adapting to unexpected challenges, and he knew that quick thinking and creativity would be their best weapons. He turned to the crew. "All stations, full emergency protocols. Shields, evasive maneuvers, power to stabilizers. Keep Lyra safe, away from the main deck if possible, but keep her near me." The crew moved with practiced precision, but there was tension in every action. Jace took a deep breath and focused on the task ahead. He knew the Queen would be watching from her ship, observing every move. If he failed, the consequences for both him and Lyra would be severe. Outside the station, sensors displayed a chaotic field of rocks and debris, moving unpredictably through space. Jace studied the patterns carefully, trying to calculate the safest path and the timing needed to activate the shields effectively. He realized that a simple automated response would not be enough. He needed to anticipate the fragment's trajectory, predicting their movement in real time. "Commander," one officer said nervously, "the shields alone won't stop all the larger fragments. We need to calculate new vectors to minimize impact." Jace's mind raced. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, nor were they the fastest, but they were clever. They could adapt, improvise, and find solutions others might overlook. Using a combination of instinct, intuition, and the station's AI assistants, he began issuing precise instructions. "Vector adjustment, 90 degrees starboard, 2.5 degrees elevation. Divert additional power to the primary shields. Secondary shields, prepare for reinforcement at impact points. His voice was calm, precise, each word measured to convey confidence to the crew. Lyra watched in silence, fascinated by the way her father handled the crisis. She had seen him solve mechanical problems and teach her new skills, but this was different. This was life and death, and yet he remained steady, unwavering, unafraid. One fragment broke through the initial shield layer, striking the outer hull with a sharp vibration. Alarms blared louder. Crew members shouted calculations and warnings, but Jace remained focused. He guided them through manual adjustments, rerouting power and repositioning the station in real time. His hands moved over the controls with the ease of someone who had done this 100 times before, though he had never faced anything like this. Lyra clung to him, but she wasn't afraid. She trusted her father completely. She had learned from him that humans did not panic in the face of danger. They thought, they acted, and they found solutions. She wanted to help too, but for now she simply stayed close, observing every move. A particularly large fragment loomed on the main screen, moving faster than predicted. It was heading directly toward the station's primary power conduit. A strike here could cripple the entire facility. Jace's heart skipped a beat. This was the critical moment. Divert all auxiliary power to primary shields, he ordered. Initiate emergency stabilization thrusters. Focus on impact point Delta 7. Brace for collision. The station shook violently as the fragment struck. Sparks flew across the control panels and some lights flickered. But the shields held. Jace gritted his teeth and continued issuing commands, carefully adjusting the trajectory. The fragment deflected, sparking against the outer hull, then moved past the station into the void of space. A cheer erupted among the crew, but Jace didn't smile yet. There were still more fragments incoming. He had to keep his focus. Lyra whispered, "You're amazing, Dad." He smiled faintly, his eyes scanning the next approaching threat. "Not amazing, Lyra, just thinking fast and staying calm. You can do this too, one day." Another fragment approached, larger than the last. Jace coordinated the crew like a conductor leading an orchestra. Humans and Zelari worked side by side, following his instructions with precision. The station tilted, shields realigned, thrusters engaged, and once again the threat was deflected. From the observation deck above, Majesta Zelara watched silently. She had expected fear, hesitation, and perhaps even mistakes from the humans. Instead, she saw confidence, ingenuity, and calm leadership. The way Jace had protected his daughter while simultaneously safeguarding the entire station impressed her beyond measure. She realized that human courage was not just about strength. It was about intelligence, adaptability, and unshakable focus in the face of danger. Jace noticed her observing, but he did not falter. He knew that showing fear would only invite doubt. Instead, he continued to issue orders, guiding the station through the asteroid storm with a mix of instinct and careful calculation. Each fragment that approached was another test, another opportunity to demonstrate the resourcefulness of humans. Lyra watched closely, learning without words. She saw how humans thought differently, how they approached challenges with creativity and determination. She began to understand that being human was not just about emotions or habits. It was about using the mind and heart together to face the unknown. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The asteroid fragments kept coming, each one requiring precise maneuvering and quick decisions. Crew members moved tirelessly, and Jace coordinated them all, a calm center in the storm of flashing lights, alarms, and danger. Finally, the last fragment passed, leaving the station intact, though slightly battered on its outer hull. The alarm ceased, replaced by the soft hum of normal operation. Crew members exhaled, some sitting heavily in relief, others exchanging nervous smiles and congratulations. Jace held Lyra close, feeling her small body relax against his chest. "You did it," she whispered. We did it, Jace corrected, smiling faintly. All of us together, and we'll always find a way as long as we stay calm and think carefully. From her ship, Majesta stepped back, her silver eyes reflecting a new understanding. Humans were fragile, yes, but they had a resourcefulness that few species could match. They could think under pressure, act creatively, and lead others through chaos. And most importantly, they could protect those they loved, no matter the cost. When the storm was over, Majesta's communicator activated. Her calm, measured voice came through the speakers. Commander Arlen, your actions today were impressive. You have demonstrated qualities that no Zelari child could learn from tradition alone. Your daughter is fortunate to have you as her guardian. Jace felt a surge of relief and pride, but he remained humble. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I had to do. Lyra's safety was my priority as always. She is safe, and she has also learned much today, Majesta said. It seems humans teach in ways we cannot predict, but ways that are effective. We shall discuss further soon. Lyra beamed, her eyes shining. She had watched her father protect not only her but the entire station. She had learned firsthand what humans were capable of: creativity, courage, and calm intelligence in the face of danger. That night, back in their quarters, Jace set Lyra down on the floor to stretch. You saw what humans can do today, he said. Even when the odds are against us, we don't panic. We find a way. That's our strength. Lyra nodded eagerly. I want to be like you, Dad, calm, clever, and brave. You already are, Lyra, he said, smiling, and you're learning how to use it in your own way. That's what makes you special. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the asteroid storm that had passed, indifferent to the small victories of a single father and his alien daughter. But Jace knew that humanity's strength was not in the stars themselves. It was in the hearts and minds of those who dared to face the unknown and protect those they loved. And for Lyra, this day had been a lesson she would never forget. She had seen the power of human ingenuity, the courage to act under pressure, and the value of calm thinking. She had also seen the love her father carried for her, a love that could guide, protect, and inspire. In the quiet that followed the storm, Jace held Lyra close, thinking about the future. The Queen would return for further observation, and challenges would continue to come. But for now, they had proven that humans could shine even in the darkest moments, that love and intelligence combined were a force to be reckoned with, and that a father and his daughter could face the universe together, unafraid. The calm after the asteroid storm had lasted only a day before a new tension settled over Elysium 1. Majesta Zellara had returned, not with the silent observation of the previous visits, but with a purpose. She had requested a meeting with Jace and Lyra to observe them in a different kind of challenge, one that tested not only their skills but their ability to bridge cultures. Jace stood near the docking bay, Lyra at his side. The Queen's ship hovered silently above, a sleek form of shimmering light and metal. The station's crew moved around them, aware of the importance of the meeting. Jace knew this was not merely a formal visit. It was a test, a way for Majesta to judge not only Lyra's upbringing but his own influence as a human guardian. Dad, Lyra whispered, gripping his hand. What will we do? Jace knelt to her level. We will do what we always do. We will be ourselves. You show her who you are and I will guide you. That's all we can do. The airlock opened with a hiss and Majesta stepped onto the station's main deck, followed by several Zelari advisors. Her silver eyes scanned the room, settling on Lyra. The child looked small and fragile, yet there was a confidence in her posture that Jace had helped cultivate, a confidence that came not from command, but from trust and understanding. You will participate in an exercise, Majesta began, her voice calm but commanding. It is designed to test your ability to work together, to problem solve, and to navigate both human and Zelari perspectives. Success will determine how we proceed with Lyra's education and upbringing. Jace nodded. Understood, Your Majesty. Lyra, nervous but excited, followed her father to the designated area. The exercise was simple in appearance, a simulated diplomatic scenario where human and Zelari children and crew had to negotiate resources for a fictional colony. The goal was to ensure cooperation, fairness, and effective decision-making under pressure. It was a test of intelligence, creativity, and empathy, qualities humans valued deeply. The group divided into teams, each with a mix of humans and Zelari. Lyra and Jace were paired with two other human children and a young Zelari trainee. The scenario was presented on a holographic display, a colony suffering from a shortage of water, energy, and medical supplies. The teams had to decide how to distribute limited resources, manage conflicts, and ensure the survival of all parties. At first, the Zelari children moved with precision, calculating numbers and assigning roles with exacting care. The humans hesitated briefly, unsure of the rigid rules, but then Jace guided Lyra to speak her ideas. "Think about everyone," he whispered. "Don't just follow the numbers. Think about their feelings, their needs, and how they can help each other." "That's how humans solve problems." Lyra nodded. She suggested that one of the smaller human settlements receive extra water because their crops were failing, and that the Zelari trainees could assist by using their advanced energy devices to power the wells. Her ideas were unconventional but practical. Jace supported her, explaining the reasoning to the group. "It's not only about efficiency," he said. "It's about cooperation. If everyone helps each other, the colony will survive better than by strict rules alone." The Zelari advisors exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Majesta, however, leaned forward, her silver eyes keen. She observed Lyra's thought process and Jace's guidance with intense focus. She could see the difference in approach. Humans emphasized empathy, adaptability, and shared responsibility, while Zelari relied on tradition, precision, and hierarchy. As the simulation progressed, problems arose. Unexpected events were introduced. A sudden shortage of energy due to a solar flare, a medical crisis among the colony's inhabitants, and a disagreement between two teams over resource allocation. The human children began to panic, but Jace remained calm. "Let's think together," he said. "What resources do we have left? How can we help everyone without making anyone worse off? Remember, communication is key." Lyra took a deep breath and spoke up. "If we combine the energy from the solar panels with the backup batteries, we can provide enough power for the medical station. Then the other team can focus on food distribution. If we talk to each other, everyone gets help." The Zelari trainee hesitated but then nodded, impressed by her reasoning. The plan worked, and the simulation continued. Lyra and her father guided their team through the remaining obstacles, using both logic and empathy to solve conflicts. Majesta remained silent but attentive, watching every interaction. She noticed the subtle ways humans encouraged each other, how they considered feelings and motivations, how mistakes were treated as opportunities to learn rather than punishments to fear. She realized that this was a quality her people often lacked, a quality that could create leaders, thinkers, and problem solvers who could face unpredictable challenges. By the end of the simulation, the colony scenario had been successfully managed. Resources were distributed fairly, conflicts were resolved, and all inhabitants survived. Lyra's team, guided by her and Jace, had performed exceptionally well, blending human ingenuity with Zelari precision. Majesta finally spoke. "This outcome is impressive. The human method of teaching empathy and collaboration has produced results beyond expectation. You have guided her well, Commander." Jace nodded, his chest swelling with pride. "She is smart and capable, Your Majesty. I only help her see the world from more than one perspective." The Queen stepped closer, looking at Lyra. "And you, child, you have shown creativity, courage, and understanding. You respect both human and Zelari ways. This is Unusual. Lyra blushed, hiding her face slightly. I just tried to do what Dad taught me, she said softly. Majesta's silver eyes softened. Your father has given you lessons that even my people rarely teach: compassion, adaptability, and cooperation beyond protocol. You are fortunate to have him. Jace smiled faintly. We are both learning from each other. That's how humans grow. The Queen's advisors murmured quietly, some nodding in agreement, others still wary of the human influence. Majesta's gaze lingered on Jace, evaluating, measuring. She realized that humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability could produce solutions where rigid tradition failed. Their empathy, their ability to adapt, and their clever problem-solving were not weaknesses, they were strengths. Commander Arlen, Majesta said finally, your methods and your daughter's abilities suggest a new approach. Perhaps humans can teach skills that Zelari tradition alone cannot. I am reconsidering the rigidity of our practices. Jace felt a flicker of hope. That would be good, Your Majesty. Humans and Zelari each have strengths. Together, we can help Lyra reach her full potential. The Queen nodded slowly. Perhaps, but this will require continued observation and collaboration. We must ensure she grows into her abilities while respecting both cultures. Lyra looked up at her mother, her eyes bright with curiosity. Can I keep learning both ways? She asked. Majesta's lips curved slightly. Yes, you may. But you must also remember the responsibilities that come with it. Knowledge and power are valuable, but they must be balanced with respect and understanding. Jace held Lyra close, proud of her courage and intelligence. She will remember, Your Majesty, he said. And she will continue to grow. The Queen stepped back, her expression thoughtful. Humans are remarkable, she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. They teach, they adapt, and they inspire in ways our tradition cannot always predict. I must watch carefully and learn as well. Jace felt a warmth in his chest. The Queen's acknowledgement was subtle but significant. She had seen what he had always known. Humans had unique strengths, not in brute power but in heart, intelligence, and ingenuity. That combination, he realized, could inspire even the most rigid of traditions. The exercise had not only tested Lyra and her father, it had tested the Queen herself. She had witnessed firsthand how human methods could complement Zelari tradition, producing results neither alone could achieve. It was a lesson in humility and appreciation, and Jace knew it would shape her perception of both him and his daughter for years to come. Later, as they walked back to their quarters, Lyra chattered excitedly about the day's events. Dad, did you see? I helped the other team. I solved the energy problem. Jace laughed, ruffling her hair. I saw, Lyra, you were brilliant. I'm proud of you. Lyra beamed. Do you think Mommy will like my ideas? She already does, Jace replied. She just doesn't always show it, but she's learning to understand you, and that's the most important thing. That night, as they looked out over the stars from their quarters, Jace reflected on the events of the day. The asteroid storm had tested their courage and ingenuity, and the diplomatic simulation had tested their intelligence, empathy, and ability to bridge cultures. In both situations, humanity had shown, not because they were stronger or faster than other species, but because they were adaptable, compassionate, and clever. Lyra curled up beside him, exhausted but happy. I want to keep learning, she whispered. I want to be like you, Dad. You already are, Jace said softly. You're learning the most important lesson of all, that thinking, caring, and acting together can overcome anything. That's what makes humans special. Outside, the station drifted among the stars, calm once more but forever changed. A new understanding had been forged between human and Zelari, between father and daughter, and between cultures that once seemed impossible to unite. And in the quiet, Jace knew that the greatest lessons were yet to come. The quiet hum of Elysium 1 filled the station as Commander Jace, Arlen, and Lyra prepared for the Queen's final visit. After the asteroid storm and the diplomatic simulation, a new challenge awaited, one that would not only test Lyra's abilities but also her father's unwavering guidance. Majesta Zelara had made it clear that today would decide how they proceeded with Lyra's upbringing and education, and Jace could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him. He held Lyra's small hand as they walked toward the observation chamber, the corridor lights reflecting off the polished walls. "Remember, Lyra," he said softly, "just be yourself. You already know how to think, how to care, and how to act. Let that shine through and everything else will follow." Lyra nodded, her expression serious but determined. "I will, Dad." The Queen's ship was docked, sleek and shimmering as always, but today there was an air of anticipation, a quiet tension that Jace could feel even through the hull of the station. When the airlock opened, Majesta stepped onto the main deck with her usual grace. Her eyes immediately found Lyra, and there was a flicker of pride mixed with curiosity in her silver gaze. "Commander Arlen, Lyra," she said calmly, her voice firm yet not unkind. "Today, we will test not only skill but judgment, collaboration, and leadership. This is your opportunity to demonstrate what you have learned, what you have taught, and what you are capable of achieving together." Jace gave a small nod, his grip on Lyra's hand tightening reassuringly. "We are ready, Your Majesty." The exercise was unlike anything Lyra had faced before. A simulated crisis scenario was projected onto a large holographic display. A distant colony had experienced a sudden breakdown of vital systems, including life support, communication, and energy. Both human and Zelari teams were called upon to coordinate efforts to stabilize the situation, repair damage, and protect the inhabitants. The challenge required strategic thinking, collaboration across species, and quick adaptation to changing circumstances. At first, the Zelari participants moved with the same precision and efficiency Jace had observed before. They followed protocols, assigned tasks according to hierarchy, and operated with strict adherence to rules. The human children hesitated briefly, uncertain how to adapt to the rigid structure, but Jace guided Lyra with quiet confidence. "Think creatively," he whispered. "Look at the problem from more than one angle. Humans solve problems differently, and that's a good thing. Trust your instincts and use what you know." Lyra took a deep breath and began directing the smaller children, suggesting combinations of human improvisation and Zelari methodology. "If we reroute power from the communication array to stabilize life support temporarily, we can keep everyone safe until the repair drones arrive," she said. The Zelari trainee looked skeptical, but when the holographic simulation reflected success, they hesitated before nodding in agreement. Lyra's solution worked, saving virtual lives and demonstrating her ability to balance creativity with logic. Jace smiled faintly. "See, you knew what to do. Sometimes rules aren't enough. You have to think and care and act together." The exercise quickly escalated. A simulated solar flare disrupted power systems, and an unexpected outbreak of illness required immediate attention. The human children panicked momentarily, but Jace remained calm, giving clear instructions while guiding Lyra. "Divide responsibilities," he said. "Medical attention first, then energy stabilization, and communicate with all teams. Stay calm and adapt." Lyra's voice was steady as she directed both humans and Zelari. "Use the backup generators for the hospital and focus the drones on repairing the life support systems. Communicate to the other team. They can manage water and food distribution while we fix this." Majesta watched intently. Her silver eyes narrowed in concentration as she observed the coordination between father and daughter. She noted the way Jace encouraged input, rewarded initiative, and allowed Lyra to make independent decisions, all while keeping her safe and involved. She could see the human way of thinking, adaptable, empathetic, and collaborative, proving effective even in situations that required precision and logic. The simulated crisis continued, with new challenges appearing rapidly. A sudden system malfunction caused the communications array to fail completely. Messages between teams became delayed and fragmented. The colony's inhabitants were panicking in the simulation, adding a layer of urgency. "Lyra, what can we do?" a human participant asked, uncertain how to proceed. "Think about what we have," she replied, her voice calm. "The backup relay is still operational. We can reroute signals through the secondary satellites. It's not perfect, but it will keep teams connected until repairs are complete." The solution worked, and the crisis simulation stabilized. Jace watched proudly as Lyra took initiative, guided the team, and solved problems creatively. She had absorbed not only his teachings but the essence of human ingenuity, the ability to remain calm, assess situations, and adapt on the fly. Majesta's expression shifted from curiosity to admiration. "Commander Arlen," she said finally, her voice calm but carrying a note of respect, "you have demonstrated qualities that are uncommon, yet remarkable. Your guidance has produced results beyond expectation." Jace bowed slightly. "I only did what any parent would do, Your Majesty. I wanted to help her see the world, solve problems, and care for others. That is what humans do best." The Queen turned her attention to Lyra, who was beaming despite her exhaustion. "Child, you have shown courage, creativity, and intelligence. You respect human and Zelari methods, and you have guided others with wisdom beyond your years. You are exceptional." Lyra's cheeks flushed. "I just tried to do my best," she whispered. "Your best is extraordinary," Majesta replied. "You have shown that learning comes not only from rules or tradition, but from experience, observation, and understanding. You have inherited something powerful from your human father, the ability to think, care, and act together. That is a gift." Jace's heart swelled with pride. He had always believed in the strength of humanity, not through force or dominance, but through empathy, intelligence, and courage. Now the Queen herself recognized it, and she saw it reflected in Lyra. "Commander Arlen," Majesta continued, "it is clear that the human approach can complement Zelari tradition in ways I did not anticipate. Lyra's development under your guidance has proven that cooperation between our species can produce extraordinary results. I am reconsidering how we raise our children, how we teach them, and how we value differences in thinking." Jace nodded, his chest warm with quiet triumph. "Together, we can help her grow stronger than either species could alone. That is my goal, and hers too." The Queen studied him carefully, then gave a small nod. "We shall proceed with a joint approach. Lyra will continue to learn from both of you, integrating human creativity and Zelari precision. She will be prepared for challenges that neither species could face alone." Lyra hugged her father tightly, her small arms wrapping around him. "Dad, we did it." "Yes, Lyra," Jace whispered, holding her close. "We did it together." Majesta watched silently, a flicker of warmth in her eyes. She had arrived expecting a human to simply raise her child according to their own methods. Instead, she found something far more impressive: a bond between father and daughter that transcended species, a relationship built on trust, guidance, and understanding. She realized that humans were not weaker for their unpredictability. They were stronger because of it. Their capacity to adapt, to care, and to think differently was a gift, one that could teach even the most disciplined of Zelari to see beyond tradition. The crew of Elysium 1 began to relax, the tension that had gripped the station gradually easing. They had witnessed something extraordinary: human ingenuity and empathy in action, guiding both children and adults through a challenge that seemed insurmountable. That evening, as the stars stretched endlessly outside the station windows, Jace and Lyra returned to their quarters. Lyra collapsed on the bed, exhausted but radiant with pride. "Dad, do you think Mommy will be happy with me now?" she asked softly. "I think she already is," Jace said, brushing her hair gently. "She just needed to see it for herself. You showed her that you can balance both worlds, and that's something very few children or adults can do. Lyra smiled sleepily. I want to keep learning from both of you. I want to be clever, brave, and kind, just like you. You already are, Jace whispered, and you will keep growing, learning, and making the universe better in your own way. That's what humans do best. Outside, the stars sparkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Elysium One drifted silently among them, carrying not only a human father and his alien daughter, but also a quiet truth. Humanity's strength lay not in dominance or power, but in the ability to adapt, to empathize, and to act with intelligence and courage. Majesta Zelara returned to her ship, her silver eyes reflecting a new understanding. She had seen the value of human ways firsthand, and she would carry that knowledge back to her people. Perhaps, in time, the Zelari would learn to integrate empathy and creativity into their own traditions, inspired by a single human father who had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be remarkable. For Jace and Lyra, the journey was just beginning. Together they had faced storms, solved impossible problems, and bridged two worlds. And as long as they remained together, they knew they could meet any challenge, inspire anyone, and shine in ways that no species, or no star, could ever surpass. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders, but Jace knew one truth above all. Humans, when guided by love, courage, and cleverness, could not only survive, they could thrive, inspire, and lead. And in that knowledge, he held Lyra close, ready to face whatever adventures lay ahead, knowing that the bond they shared was more powerful than any threat the stars could offer. In the quiet, as father and daughter watched the infinite night sky, a sense of hope and possibility filled the room. The Queen's early return had tested them, challenged them, and even frightened them, but it had also proven something remarkable. Humanity, in its simplest and most profound form, could teach, protect, and inspire, and that Jace knew was a truth worth holding onto for a lifetime.